Welcome back to the Terry and Jesse Show. Father Murr, many times people come up to me and they show me a book by Bishop Sheen signed by Fulton Sheen, and they'll tell me, oh, Bishop Sheen performed a wedding of my uncle and my aunt or whatever, just stories like this. But I don't recall ever having a story like this where he talks, this is the Bishop of John Barras in New York, and Bishop of Rockville. And since you were in New York, I don't even know.
Bishop, excuse me.
Barras?
It's where a lot of some of my best friends in the world live.
See, I think
not Rockville.
What is
Rockville Center?
Oh, Rockville Center.
Rockville Center, New York.
Oh yeah,
right.
You got to get the center in.
And no, absolutely, great people in a great community.
No kidding.
St. Agnes Cathedral, in great part.
Is that
actually, Terry, well, there are a lot of individual people there, but St. Agnes Cathedral built my orphanage.
Wow. So you do have a connection with this.
So, oh yes. And they're absolutely marvelous people.
So tell us about
the closest friends in the world.
Yeah. Give us the background, Bishop, Father Murr, about this bishop, how he grew up knowing Fulton Sheen as a child and his parents. Tell us a little bit about the parents, because like you said, they're not just regular.
Can you imagine? Well, I don't know him. I'm looking forward now. When I go back to Rockville Center to meeting him.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know him personally. I just know what you sent me to read, which was surprising, Terry.
Yeah, it shocked me.
I was pleased.
Yeah, so was I.
And he's so unabashedly proud of it.
Oh,
it's
yeah. Yeah, and I like the way he says, Hermani Vitae, this is the document the church needs to be promoting right now. And I stand up at my hospitals for Catholic morality. And, we've got 4 big hospitals. And, the government, the Albany comes and says, we're going to do this. And I say, hey, time out. That's against what we're doing. It sounds like Bishop Sheen.
It's certainly the kind of bishop they needed there.
Yeah, I guess.
It really is.
And his parents, again, what I found interesting in the article, we all know who Frank Sheen was. He died in 1981, and my wife actually met him at the University of San Francisco because of friendship with Father Fessio. So Frank Sheen was this great apologist, and so it seems to me, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. So this guy was surrounded by, Fulton Sheen, Frank Sheen, all these great evangelists, and his father and mom worked at the Department for Evangelization with Fulton Sheen, Propagation of the Faith. I mean, it seemed to me that this guy and then one more quick note that I thought, We Mysterious Priests. He said that book affected him with his priesthood. Well, you know what, Father Murr, back in the early 90s, I had that book and I sent it to Father Fessio and I said, Father, please seriously consider republishing this book on the priesthood by Fulton Sheen because it's magnificent. And you know what he did? He came back and says, you're right, we're going to do it. And that book...
Did Ignatius Press republish it?
They republished it because some bald-headed old man sent it to them and said, you need to do this. Now, you know how many books I send that they say no? Probably 9 out of 10.
Oh, sure.
So I got one. They loved it. And that book, I know for a fact, because I've used it for young men to read about the priesthood, and it was very instrumental in them saying yes to
Terry, I read that book in 1976.
What?
I bought it when it came out. I bought it at the Ankara bookstore.
Oh my God.
And that was what got me hooked on Sheen. And then from there I bought his tapes for retreats. Yeah. I made a retreat. I told everybody I'm going to make a retreat with Fulton J. Sheen.
Yeah.
In those days we had the audio tapes that had just come out. They're fantastic. Well, but that book, Those Mysterious Priests, was fantastic.
And Father, let me just mention something then. You correct me right on the air, but I'm convinced of this, that my 45 years, since 1978, when I've been promoting Fulton Sheen's Life is Worth Living, I've seen so much fruit from Fulton Sheen's material where people listen to him or read his book and they go, it changed my life. So I want to say something about his beatification. We almost had it happen several years ago.
Please do so.
I'm just going to say I'm so disappointed in the institutional church because Fulton Sheen, I still get this. He still has a lot of enemies in the church that consider his material old school. Like, come on, we're beyond.
Well, it's not. You know what it is, Terry? I'm going to tell you something.
No.
I'll be quite frank.
Yeah.
Look, I have a lot of friends who are priests.
Yeah, I bet.
So do you. So do you.
Yeah.
And we both know priests who are exemplary. They're marvelous men.
Oh, yeah.
But we also have run into priests who are really quite terrible.
Yeah.
They criticize, they say things that are unkind, untrue, this and the other thing, and many times out of sheer jealousy and envy.
Yeah.
And Sheen had a lot of enemies because they were envious.
Yes.
Look, you don't come across somebody who can preach the way he preached, who can teach the way he taught. It's an extremely rare person that you find with that capacity. I've made retreats with great priests who knew their stuff inside and out. They had a doctorate in patristics, they had a doctorate. They could not communicate. They couldn't communicate the message. Fulton J. Sheen knew his theology and philosophy, and he was capable of communicating it so that when he was talking, he was actually seeding a garden.
Yeah.
There were things would take root in you when you were listening to him. This is a marvelous talent, a God-given talent, and many priests were jealous of that.
Well, to give you an example, Father Murr, back in 1979, I can tell you it was March at the CCD Congress with 40,000 people at Anaheim Convention Center. I launched Fulton Sheen's Life is Worth Living on cassette tape, when people remember that.
Wow.
And
yeah, I do.
I remember the priest was coming up to the Ignatius Press booth, and I was working it. And I said, Father, I have Archbishop Sheen's Life is Worth Living. This is great material for homilies. I'd love to give it to you. And I was so excited. And the priest said to me, young man, because I was young back in 1979. He said to me, young man, stop wasting your time on Fulton Sheen. What? He said, he's passé. He used the word antiquated. I'll never forget. He's old school. We don't need him. We're beyond Fulton Sheen now. Thanks be to God. And I looked at him, and everything inside of me said, tell that priest to go pound sand. He's wet. He's wrong. But at the time, I was young. I respected the priesthood. I should respect him. I just disagreed with him vehemently inside. And I just said, okay, Father, have a great day. And then I said to myself, I'm going to prove him wrong. And now millions of recordings 45 years later through Lighthouse Catholic, so all these different groups that I'm working with over the years have been distributing Fulton Sheen, and I see the fruit. So here's my point. The man, like you said, was jealous of Fulton Sheen. Yeah. There's an example. And I noticed when I first started to promote Bishop Sheen, I was getting more of that from the institutional church. People saying, he's dead now. Come on, can't we move on? And I said, what? So that was, but you see,
could you imagine they thought the same thing of St. Paul?
Yes, that's exactly where I was going. And see, the point of it was, it actually gave me more desire to do this work because I felt like I'm on the right track. If they're persecuting me, then I must be doing something right.
That's a good way to take it because it's true. It's true. But this is true. Sheen himself, I only spoke to him once. Wow. I wish I would have been able to swing that a little bit to a fuller conversation.
Sure.
But Sheen complained to priests.
Yes.
That they should stop trying to imitate him.
I remember that. Yep.
Right. And he said, just stop it. Stop it. Fall in love with the gospel. When you get the gospel and you love it, you yourself will be expressing the way God gave you to express yourself.
Amen.
It'll be another gift, but stop trying to imitate me. He said, what he was trying to say very, very nicely, Terry, was most of you, by trying to imitate me, fall flat on your faces.
Yep. Yeah. Be yourself. Come on. Yep.
Be yourself.
Yep. Well said. Bishop Sheen.
Let me just say something else.
Sure.
I've got to mention this.
Yeah.
We're talking about Sheen just a few minutes ago, and you said you were talking about people like Ignatius of Loyola, Saint Augustine, and what have you, and Mary Magdalene, who have lived a different kind of life and then converted.
Right.
Through Sheen also, I discovered a great poem. I had heard about it, to be honest, but I had never read it. The Hound of Heaven.
I knew you were going to say that. Yep.
Yeah. The Hound of Heaven by Francis Thompson.
Oh my gosh.
Listen, if your readers, your listeners, our listeners, I should say,
yes,
right now have a chance to read that, the Hound of Heaven. It's the idea that Christ is hounding you.
Yes.
Behind you, hounding you to get with the program, to follow his laws. It's a magnificent, stirring poem by Francis Thompson. And who recorded it? It's recorded, Terry.
I have it on recording. I tell you what, it's part of my Life is Worth Living series. And
did Sheen record it?
Yeah, it was on his convert course. He
okay. Well, what I heard it recorded by Richard Burton.
Okay, that's another one then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's dramatic.
Oh,
it's beautiful.
yeah, it is.